Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I'm so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about soul rest. I know that it has been one hell of a year, and we all need some extra TLC right about now. So don't worry, I've got you covered this month, and I'll make sure that you feel recharged and replenished so that you can finish out this crazy year with energy to spare. All right, let's jump into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey everybody, it is Mary, and I am so excited for this episode because I don't even know what's going to happen today, y'all. I am sitting across from my amazing part-time co-host, Lindsley Brooks. Hey, girl.
Hello, hello.
As y'all know, Lindsley joins me once a month to have a candid conversation about the topic of the month, and it's always fun because we never exactly know, what's going to happen in our conversations and what's going to show up. But it's almost like the way I think about these episodes is like if somebody were to come have a cocktail with us.
Yep.
This is what they'd get.
Exactly.
This is
for
our
better,
life.
for worse.
Hey, can we just talk about for a second that somebody thought that we were romantically together?
I mean, I think it's because of our photo shoot for this podcast. People wondered.
Just to make it clear, Lindsley and I are not in a romantic relationship. Nope. I am very happily paired up with old Bentley.
Hey, Bentley.
But you are my soul sister
yes.
for sure.
Yes.
But I just thought that
it's
was
the
so
Gail
funny.
and Oprah thing.
It is. Oh my gosh.
See? People think they're together sometimes.
We just put ourselves in that category. This is what I love about girlfriends too.
Yeah.
Because we can just be like so in sync and deep. And I just laugh. I probably have more intimate conversations with you than I do with Bentley.
Totally.
And Bentley and I are super close and have great communication.
But you need that. You need to have your girlfriend to have those other types of conversations. Otherwise, it's too heavy, right? You can't put that on your partner.
No, totally. That's why I love the Fully Alive Circle because it's like women are just loving getting to hang out with other women. And it's rare to have like really close friendships.
Yeah.
And I love getting to facilitate like soul tribe sisterhood. And I'm just grateful for you too.
Yay.
Okay. So enough of all that, whatever that was.
Love fest.
Okay. So obviously this month, y'all, we're talking all about soul rest and we're talking about what it looks like to finally create sort of a new way of approaching our lives that includes regular rest and the opportunity to slow down. And last week we had a great episode kind of getting into the foundation of, okay, what is this whole thing we talk about rest and why is it so important and why is it found in every faith tradition out there? The idea of the Sabbath and this need for a pause and a slow down and a regroup. And I mentioned in that episode kind of the reasons that get us stuck in this cycle of hustle and go mentality and why we don't allow ourselves to rest. And one of the things that I don't really dive too deep in that conversation, but that I want to kind of talk to you about, Lindsley, is this like addiction that we have to the grind, to the hustle, and how, interestingly enough, workaholism is like one of those socially acceptable addictions that we sort of don't even qualify as a true addiction. It's sort of like, oh, you just work really hard or you just hustle. And Lindsley has been a, I don't want to say a total expert, but you've done a lot of work, recovery work with addiction. Yeah. And I thought it would be kind of cool to look at having this honest conversation about just addiction in general. And like how workaholism really is also an addiction that's like robbing us of peace and serenity in our lives.
Well, and I love what you're saying too, because it's one of those addictions that gets rewarded.
Yeah,
in society.
So true.
Yeah. So it's kind of really hard to know when it's out of balance, or what we say in recovery is like when your life has become unmanageable. How do you know? And so it's one of those that, man, the line is so thin when it comes to workaholism because you just there's so many perks for working really hard.
Well, and honestly, if you think about addiction, there's always a perk.
Oh, totally. Otherwise you wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Like there's always a reason why
Yeah.
we're addicted to whatever the substance or behavior is. It's because there's some sort of like obviously dysfunctional, but some sort of payoff. So when we think about workaholism, let's talk about the benefit of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
money. Yeah.
Yeah. Money.
Yeah. And status.
Yeah.
Busyness.
Well, I was going to say like the success really, or I should say like being a workaholic is a status symbol.
Totally.
Like when we get together, when anybody says, "Oh, well, how are you doing?" "Well, I've been so busy."
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
And that automatically is like, good for you.
Yeah.
You must be
a hard worker.
I was gonna say, you've been working real hard, and like pat on the back.
Yeah.
Like,
except when they have nothing to show for it, you're like, oh, what are you working on all the time?
no, but you like, it's so true
Yeah.
though. Cause you think about like, nobody ever says like, how are you doing? God, I'm so rested
Yeah.
and rejuvenated.
I know.
I just feel so at peace.
It almost, think about that for a second. If somebody was to say that, guess what our minds would do? Well, aren't you just a lazy ass?
Yeah. Or, oh, how privileged you
Yeah,
are.
you're privileged.
Or how lucky you must be.
Yes.
Ooh. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of like societal stuff that I think is like, I mean, geez, so crazy that comes into play that like we don't even think about what it means when we say, "Oh, I'm busy," or "Man, I've been so stressed out this week." Even when you walked in the door, so I'm, with the time we're recording this, I'm leaving to go out of town for my rest, my sabbatical, but I've been like cranking it this week, and I'm like pretty good about my boundaries of time, but I've just been pushing extra hard this week because I'm trying to fit it all in so that I can take off for the next 3 weeks, and it's interesting. I felt a little bit of self-pride when you showed up and I was like, man, I've been working. I've been so exhausted. My body hurts. I've just been sitting here recording and doing videos and whatever. But there was like this pleasurable thing that I got. My ego. It was like an ego hit.
Well, or maybe it was also, it's like innate in us to be productive. We feel good when we're being producing something.
Right.
So what is the line between being productive, feeling on purpose, accomplishing something, and then when it goes into some sort of like no man's land of just being too much, and then other things start getting negatively affected.
Okay, so that's good. So that's okay. This is really, I think, an important thing because hustle or the addiction of workaholism is different than working hard.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that because I think you made a really profound thing was when it starts affecting other areas of your life.
Yeah.
And that goes back to my life is unmanageable.
Yeah. That
it's spilling out into other areas. And to me, like it's burnout.
Yeah.
So when we're in that phase of burnout, let's talk about what that looks like. Let's talk about the, I'm thinking of like 2 columns here, like one that's socially acceptable burnout and one that's like,
serious.
Like
bad.
everybody knows and it's like, it's bad, kind of the real breakdown. So like socially acceptable burnout to me is where, you're taking pills this could almost like lead to a different addiction, but taking pills to give yourself either energy or take away like physical pain, like pill popping, to get through, but you're still functioning.
Yeah.
Functioning addict.
Yeah. Welcome to the world.
Like literally every single person.
Yeah.
There's no way you honestly, can we just have a pause? There's no way you can't be an addict of some kind and exist in this world when you are expecting yourself to hustle.
Yeah.
Like there's a trade-off.
Yeah.
If you're going to hustle, you have to sacrifice something. Your health, your sleep, your friends, your family, fun, play, joy, whatever. Something gets axed.
And I remember Danielle Laporte said years ago, she said, like, there's no such thing as balance. Like you really, like we're all trying to obtain some level of a balanced lifestyle. So I do believe there are seasons of like what you're doing right now. You're having to things are out of balance because you have a future goal that actually though is constructive. It is beneficial.
Yep.
It is for a higher good. But it's like when things are out of balance and then there's no like mutually beneficial or for the highest good.
Right.
And it just continues to be destructive in nature. That's when I think that whole out of balance thing and it becomes destructive.
Well, and maybe it's consistent.
Exactly.
Like you're consistently a workaholic. And that's why, and honestly, if you look at the traditions of faith, and I talked about this last week a little bit, but like there are periods of rest. It's not that you're just like in total rest all the time, but it's almost like you're going to the watering hole to get replenished. But with workaholism, you don't listen to those signals in your body that say stop or take a break or replenish. Like you're blowing past. Like I know that feeling because this is something that I really do struggle with. That it's like you ignore your intuitive hits. To me, that's when it's an addiction. When you go, no, I'm ignoring all of that, and I'm in sacrifice of self. I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Because that, like, the feeding on the addiction is more important than slowing down and pausing and saying, oh, take a water break, eat something, go to sleep. And it's interesting, like, so this is, I think, so fascinating about women in particular. Like, we glorify the 9 to 5 sort of masculine way of being. Like, you show up early, you get, you do all your work, you crank it out, and then even your evening is completely like scheduled out of all the different things you got to fit in. There's not really any rest until you collapse. Until you're made to rest. You have to rest. You have a panic attack, or, you're just like sidelined and you're made to it. So what's interesting though, is like, I feel like 2 entrepreneurs have taken that idea of like the 9 to 5 productivity at its finest, but then we've like upped the ante and we're like, okay, and not only am I going to have my 9 to 5 job, then I'm going to come home and I'm going to work even more.
Well, exactly. Because you throw in the entrepreneurial aspect of that, and then you can literally be working 24 hours a day.
Literally. And I know people like that.
Yeah. It's so funny. I know we've talked about rituals and routines and things in the past, but if I'm not careful, I will roll over and see my phone and then see what demands are needed of me like 7 a.m. And if I'm not careful, I'll go straight into work mode.
Yeah.
I haven't grounded in, and see, like, and we probably get into this a little bit more. I believe there's moments of rest that are needed throughout the day.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because in the Fully Alive Circle membership, in the workbook, so every month I give them a workbook, and there's like 5 days of journal prompts. So in one of the days, I actually have them like map out, what does it look like for a daily rest, a weekly rest, monthly, and actually, when I talked to Melody Miles, who is our guest for this month, she talks about this, like a rhythm of rest. And we need it just more than just sporadically, like breaks within our day. Like our sweet little brains can't even handle it.
Don't you think though, that in the middle of this whole pandemic, like we were all forced to rest on some level? I mean, like screeching halt, where we had to look at all the ways we had just been churning and moving and going unconsciously, like just plowing straight ahead, not even knowing we were on this hamster wheel.
Okay, this is actually really fascinating, because for everybody listening, I want you to think back when this happened. So this was months ago when we literally couldn't leave, like real lockdown. I know things are opening back up, so it's a little bit different now. But when we were really in like that forced rest, think back on that moment and think about the thoughts that you had around having to rest. Was there resistance? Were you so like relieved that you got this sort of forced rest? Because I know for a lot of people, they didn't know what the heck to do. Like it was very uncomfortable. Like that it was like, and then you see the people, I love this, like the different responses. Yeah. Because some people were like, woo, permission. Like I'm going to have fun. I'm going to like long-term spring break. I'm going to just like go crazy. Then you had the people that were like, I have to accomplish something during this time.
Yep.
I have to
sign
produce
up for
something.
A course. Let me write my book. Let's, whatever.
Yeah.
Like this level of producing.
I can't rest even in this. Even when I'm literally the entire world is resting, I won't allow myself to. I mean, we might say that's an addiction.
Yeah, totally.
But I'm in that camp. Like I get it. Like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of this. But if you just think about how deeply we are trained to connect value with productivity, like you were saying, that's deep. And I do think you're right. I think that there is an element that feels good in that. I think growth, we always say growth equals happiness. Yeah, it does. But it's like, can you have value when you're doing nothing? Yeah. Can you feel a sense of self-worth when you're not producing anything? Hey y'all, I'm sure you've been hearing me mention my Fully Alive Circle membership, and you might be wondering what it is and how you can join. So let me tell you a little bit about it. So the Circle membership is a safe place for women to gather together in a heart-centered community to take this deep dive into personal transformation. So it's my online membership where you'll learn how to find yourself again through daily devotional practices. Inside of our private Facebook group, I share resources like guided meditations, yoga practices, essential oil recipes, journal prompts, and so much more that dive into our monthly topic that we explore right here on the Living Fully Alive podcast. And all those resources are delivered to your inbox weekly to help you create powerful change in your life. So if you're looking for an affordable way to continue your journey of living fully alive, then definitely check out the Fully Alive Circle membership. Just go to maryhyatt.com/circle and you can find out all the details and join. All right, now back to this week's episode.
Well, and you know that we've been told this, it's so cliche, but it's such a good reminder. It's like we are human beings, not human doings.
Yes.
And, you know, we were both working earlier before we got together, and I was on this coaching call with a client, and she's in this state where she's had this kind of event happen a few months ago that she really didn't realize how much it affected her. And she's been in work mode like crazy. And she has been projecting all of her, like her boyfriend should be doing this. He should be working more. Like all of a sudden this critical eye of he's not showing up enough in work mode. He's too lazy. He wants to hang out and have fun. And then she's been beating herself into like ambitious drive mode. And it just hit me. I was like, girl.
Hello, mirror.
Hello. Yeah. Hello, mirror. And hello, you're in grief. Yeah. And hello, when's the last time you just stopped and had a really good cry? And when's the last time you just gave yourself permission to do nothing?
Yeah.
For the afternoon?
Well, work, because it's so socially acceptable, work is the green light check mark for coping.
Yep.
And it is not 100% all the time, but it can be for sure a coping strategy.
Yep.
Like,
good distraction.
Great distraction. Like I'm going to go here when life is feeling unmanageable. I can at least manage it here. And people do this with a lot of different things. They can do it with their diet, with eating, and that sense of control. All different ways people do this, but this is a very, very American common way of like, well, I'll just work more. And then I don't have to really face what's going on.
Well, and also if you think about it too, there's positive reinforcement and stuff like when it comes to workaholic or working too much and using it as a tactic to distract, because we get this positive reinforcement and therefore it makes us think we need to keep doing it. Do you see what I'm saying? And it's like, yes, there's reward, but it also is like, hey, look, I'm getting a relief from this feeling that I've got going on inside of me. I'm getting a temporary distraction from having to deal with what I want to do. And it gives me some kind of good perk over here. And like, no wonder it becomes the go-to drug.
Well, I forget. I think this is Tony Robbins, but he talks about addiction and he talks about the core needs that every human being has. And I think the saying is, and I might be butchering this, but when something meets at least two of your core needs, it becomes an addiction.
Ooh.
And so the needs are, every human being needs certainty. Every human being needs uncertainty. They need love and connection, growth and contribution. I'm going to look them up right now. I'm going to Google this.
That's such a good concept, though. It makes so much sense.
Yeah. 6 human needs, Tony Robbins. Guys, we're doing it in real time.
Big Tony.
Big old Tony. Okay, hang on. Let's see. I should know this. I've been to enough freaking Tony events.
Aren't you like VIP membership or something?
This is when you go, my brain is tired. Okay, certainty and uncertainty. Oh, yeah. Significance. That's a huge one. Love and connection, growth, and then contribution. So if you have 2 of these.
Say them again.
Okay. So certainty, which is the need for safety, stability, comfort, security, predictability, control, consistency. So I know what's going to happen. I'm certain of it. Uncertainty or variety. So we don't like everything to be just, Groundhog's Day. We like there to be surprises and challenges and, something that's a little bit novelty. This is like the 7s, 7 on the Enneagram's biggest love. And then significance. I am somebody.
Yeah,
I
it makes me feel important.
Yeah, I have value. I have worth. I feel important. Totally. I feel special, worthy of love. Love and connection. So this is what connects me to other people, attachment. I feel this sort of sense of oneness. There's some intimacy that I have in my life. And then the last two are growth and contribution. So growth is obviously I'm expanding emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever. I'm developing somehow. And then lastly, contribution. So getting outside of ourselves, giving, serving, generous, that kind of thing. So you put two of those things together. So if being a workaholic is meeting, number one, certainty, like what we're talking about, but it also is giving me significance. Hello.
We're going to more of that.
More of that, please. So when you look at when anything you do meets at least two of those, you're effed. Just kidding.
Well, you're just going to be prone to just trying to recreate it all the time.
Exactly. And I want to make sure it's two because part of me thinks it might be three.
Yeah. And as long as it's like creating constructive and like healthy behaviors, then I'm sure it's great. But anything that's even if it's considered to be a good thing, anything done in excess,
and honestly,
can run the risk.
Well, we could say like addiction, obviously, but I think that when two of these things come together and give you an outcome or a result that you want, that's great.
And gives you a little dopamine hit.
Yep. It's like, oh, well, I know that, if I am in a place with my work that is both giving me growth and contribution, why would I not want to do more of that?
Right.
Like I'm going to want to be in service at a higher level.
Yeah.
Or if it's giving me, you could think about a relationship. It's giving me certainty and love and connection. Great. I'm going to want more of that. So it's just, I think, important to kind of notice that like when you're getting those core human needs met, you're going to move towards it. You're going to want more of it. And I think that when we look at this concept of overworking, it's hitting some of that.
Yeah.
So I think this is really important to slow down if you find yourself in a pattern where you're uncomfortable with rest. Like when we look back at that time of COVID, of quarantine, and there's some discomfort there. I remember, I'm going to kind of out my dad for a second. Sorry, Michael Hyatt. But this is really good because he's moved out of this. But I think this is really common for most people, men in particular, but I think more and more women now. We would go on vacation. And this is like, we were really broke as a joke growing up, so we never went on vacation. But as we got older, my dad started becoming more successful. We would go on vacation. He would take his laptop, and he would be on his laptop the entire trip. Yeah. I can remember it so vividly. We were like on vacation at the beach. Gorgeous view. I mean, just like, amazing. And it was really exciting because when we got, I was probably a junior or senior in high school before we actually started to have money. And he'd gotten a book deal or whatever. And so he was on his computer just like literally all the time. And as a Enneagram 3, the achiever, in order for him to feel at peace and calm, he needed to be achieving something. So he was a total workaholic, 100%. I mean, he literally like no boundaries, couldn't be on vacation. He did not know how to slow down and rest. And I think that like those of you listening, you all, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's yourself, like, this is like when you go on vacation, you can't turn your brain off. It's been so cool to watch him though, as he's had more awareness of this, learn how to value rest. And now he can achieve rest.
Yes.
Isn't that cool?
Yes. And you know what else to like acknowledge him as well? Like he's so good about boundaries when it comes to his time now that like I think if anything, time has shown him, tell me if I'm wrong, but time has shown him that he becomes more productive.
Yes.
He's able to deliver and be in a higher state because he's literally scheduled in these times of rest.
He takes a month-long sabbatical every year. He, doesn't work on the weekends. When he goes on vacation, now we go as a family to the beach, and he's literally offline.
Yeah, present with y'all.
Reading books. We're having these amazing conversations. If y'all saw, this is a couple years ago, he and I we'd go on morning walks together. I have a picture. This is on my Instagram years ago, probably 3 years ago, of us just like walking, down the beach. Yeah. And like, honestly, like those are like really sweet
precious
memories. But it required that he had to rework in his mind how he thought about rest as something that was a non-negotiable, something that led him to better desired result, and that he could kind of like, knowing his tendencies of, okay, I need to accomplish, literally, it's so cute, on vacation, because he wants to like be able to check things off his list. Now the list is take a nap. The list is read a chapter out of a book, take a walk with Mary, or, you know, whatever. And he can check those off and feel like he's accomplished something, but he's accomplishing resting.
That's so good. You know, this is reminding me too, Martha Beck used to always say there's only 2 states of being that we need to all be in. It's rest or play.
Ooh.
Because she would say even your work needs to feel like play.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that, like, okay, if I'm a hot mess and I'm having all sorts of just like emotions and I'm feeling frazzled and I don't know what I need, I will check in with myself and I'll go, what do I need right now? Rest or play? And it's usually an indicator that you're too much in like work mode.
You're out of alignment.
Yeah, because like what you were saying is like what you're calling rest. Yes, it's a nap, but like your dad on the list was take a walk with Mary, read a book.
Yeah.
That could feel like play.
Totally.
So isn't that interesting? Rest doesn't mean you're just sleeping.
Yeah, and that's actually a great point. So there's different kinds of rest,
Yeah.
obviously, but there's some rest that is very like blah, like literally like take a nap, do nothing, meditate, and just be.
Stare at a wall.
You know, but you know, if you're at the beach, for
Yeah.
example, like you're just sitting there, you're just
Yeah.
watching the ocean, right? But there's also active rest where you're doing things that are replenishing, rejuvenating.
Yeah. Rejuvenating. Yeah.
I need some rest.
Yeah. Somebody needs some rest.
But you're right. I think that's actually important because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people go, well, I don't know how to just do nothing.
Yeah.
There can be active rest that
Yes.
is, and to me, if it's restful, is if it is leading you into more peace, leading you into more pleasure, but then also like filling your cup up.
Yes.
I mean, it's got to be like you're putting gas in your gasoline tank.
It is an art form, isn't it? It's like the art of doing nothing.
Elizabeth Gilbert.
Oh, she wrote that?
I don't think, well, no, this is an Italian term, actually.
Oh.
She wrote it in her book.
Oh, Eat, Pray, Love.
And
Yeah.
she talks about that when she moved to Italy. And the big lesson that she learned was the art of doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that the Italians have mastered
Oh,
this.
yeah.
And like, this is where it makes me just have a little bit of like a perspective shift when I think about the priorities and the value system of America and our whole thing of like, go, you know, work. I think Japan's very similar to this, like Tokyo, you know, you think of New York City, these sort of on 24/7, don't take a break kind of mentalities. And I think what we're realizing, one, is it's costing us way too much. But then you look at other cultures that have an opposite kind of mentality. I mean, the Italians in all of Europe, they literally have a 2-hour break in the afternoon when the shops close. And this like communal siesta. Like everybody's going to go rest.
What do you think life is going to be like post this COVID? Because I don't, you know, you said New York City and I'm thinking, man, I even saw in the news that like all Times Square, when it's always going and it's all that just in your face, go. And it's just quiet. Wow. And I mean, who knows, right? But it does make you think, will we start, because we've learned how to not produce or achieve or go into that like hamster, you know, thing so much. Do you think that we're going to have an adjustment? Like, will we ever, I mean, we'll probably all forget and just go back to the way it was before.
I mean, yeah.
But I hope not, right? And it does make you think, because I'm like, if you live near a beach, like in the beach cultures, beach towns, there's a sleepier way of life, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like everybody just kind of hangs out. Where you're in these big city type things, there is this kind of expectation and this current that you feel like you have to just jump in, and it tells you how fast you're going to be going.
Exactly. Like you don't have any say over it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this whole year has been an invitation for a pause to question, why have I been doing what I've been doing? Why am I hustling so hard? Why am I feeling this need to produce? Or, you know, is it coming from a place of needing approval for keeping up with so-and-so, you know, competitive comparison? Is it to earn love or approval? Is it to feel like I'm enough and worthy, like for my parents or for my, you know, whomever, the world? Like, to me, we had this beautiful opportunity to be like, okay, what's really going on here? and ask ourselves, is it really how I want to be living? Like if my soul could make the decisions for me and not my ego, would I be doing all this shit?
That's right.
Probably not.
And you can ask yourself that without having to blow shit up to have it find out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
right.
It's like you can be more proactive about that quality of life that you want, or life is not sustainable if you're going in that hustle mode so much.
Yeah.
It'll stop you at some point.
Well, and I think that if you have known people who've been in that way of being for a long time, eventually you crash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you for myself, that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I had horrible adrenal fatigue.
That's right.
Literally laid out, exhausted. And now I know I've got to watch it. And it's like somebody who has, some kind of a, I don't know, a prone to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They got to watch their levels.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me with that, it's I know I'm prone to workaholism.
Yeah.
That sort of I got to watch myself. I got to have boundaries, because if I just let my ego run wild, all of a sudden my body's giving out. Mm-hmm. I'm in that state, and it's whoa, wait a second. And then you think about people like executives that that end up in the hospital with a heart attack or spleen ruptures or
broken relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, it's endless. And I think it goes back to when you were talking about the addiction piece of that. Really and truly, the first step is it's kind of like you humbly admit that you are powerless over this thing, right? And that your life has become unmanageable. So you have to get really clear about what your definition of unmanageable life is. Mm-hmm. And so for you, it's like health issues. And other people, it might be their relationships are broken or, bankruptcy or who knows. But it's like all of a sudden you have to have enough consciousness. You have to have enough awareness about and admit.
I was going to say honesty.
And admit that your life is freaking not working.
Totally.
And that's the place where you get to a place of surrender and you go, okay, I finally admit it. Something needs to adjust. I am not in control over this. I thought I was. I thought I had my whole workaholic thing under control, but obviously I don't, because life isn't working the way I thought it was going to work.
Yeah. And this is where the second step, which is essentially what we've been talking about last month with aligned routine, is the first step to come back in alignment, is to go up, to go to source.
Yeah.
And it's basically okay, how we recenter is we go up. First of all, we acknowledge we got an issue. Then we go up and we go, all right, there's got to be power. What is it?
Came to believe
that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And it's let's talk about sanity for a second. Sanity, to me, peace, serenity. And when you're in a state where you're not in peace and serenity in your life in one area, to me, it's again, it's not about coming into perfect balance, but it's whoa, something is really off kilter here.
Yeah.
And I've got to, go up.
Well, and I mean, gosh,
help.
We could do a whole episode on the 12 steps. You know how I am, how much I love them. But I mean, truly, when I think about sanity, it almost is admitting, yeah, I was insane. I was acting like a crazy person.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was acting like a damn fool.
Yeah, exactly. Running around, not eating, not sleeping,
drinking every night just to get
too much coffee to survive the day.
Well, that was a whole thing. I can't remember who I talked. This was months ago. I interviewed somebody on the show and we were talking about wine, coffee to wine. Mm-hmm. There's that cycle of you drink a lot of caffeine and then to shut off, you drink wine at night or martini at night and you start over, cycle over and over again. And it's what would life look like when we could value and bring in this whole idea of resting, soul rest?
Well, and then that bears the question, what are we so afraid of that we aren't doing it? Why aren't we doing it then?
Well, and I talked about this a lot on the first podcast, because the first episode last week, because there are so many things that get in the way. I mean, there's so many limiting beliefs that we have around it. I think that is just fascinating in and of itself. Just even to the point of giving ourselves permission to rest.
Yeah, we're running, just constantly running.
And I think it's important to understand that when we begin to rest, it's not going to feel good immediately. It's almost like, when we had to be forced to rest, there's going to be discomfort because we're not used to it. Mm-hmm. And we've been living with all these stories that say we can't, or that we're weak if we do, or that, our life will fall apart if we don't keep going. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing. It's I got to make money. I got to keep doing that. My business will fall apart if I don't stop. If I stop. And so there's going to be some angst and tension.
An adjustment period.
It's like we have not built up the tolerance yet to rest.
Yeah, totally.
We don't have rest
It's
tolerance.
a muscle, isn't it? It's like creating a new neuropath in our brains of how we function in the world and what our definition of success is, what our definition of a good quality of life is. Like everything has to be reassessed and reevaluated when you're willing and when you're committed to doing life differently.
Yeah.
It's a muscle.
It's a muscle. And I think that we have to tell ourselves a new story about the payoff that we'll receive by resting. Because if we just think it's a sacrifice and we're doing it because either we think we should or we read in the book that it's like, no, we got to know that like this is a temporary discomfort that's going to lead to more peace and serenity.
Yeah.
And that's going to feel good.
What's that guy's name? Simon Sinek or something? What's your big why?
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
what's your big why? What is the thing that will help get you through those moments of discomfort? Because it's got to be more than just, so my wife will shut up.
Totally. Or
so that my kids think I love them.
Then my cholesterol goes down.
Yeah.
Like those aren't liberating.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
No.
And it's so funny because everything we're talking about, I'm like, ooh, I've got so many good journal prompts this month for the circle members. Oh my God, you're going to get to work through all this so you can flesh it out because you have to do the work on this. I think like anytime I think about, talking about, oh, this is a great thing to reevaluate and to look at and then rewire, you got to actually pause to do that work. And that's why I love those journal prompts because it gives you the opportunity to slow down and do that. And, oh man, just this idea of like, what would life be like with more rest? To just imagine it for just a moment.
Yeah. What would open up?
Okay. I'm curious about this because, I think this is just like a little bit of a, what do they call that? Study. What is the study of humans?
Oh, psychology? Sociology?
Anthropology or whatever. Anyways, this is like,
Yeah.
I'm curious about how you operate. So I think you are somebody who does this really well, actually.
Oh,
like,
thank you.
You, to me, are somebody who carves out time. Like sometimes I'll try to get you in the morning. Then you're like, nope, I'm busy meditating or whatever, you know, like I know that you carve out time for rest.
Yeah.
And I do know your past and I know how you used to be. So, meaning like you, when you were a real estate mogul, doing all this stuff, running around like a hothead.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So now that you have a slower way of being, just to kind of like help drum up some ideas for people of what the payoff is, what have been the biggest benefits that you've experienced by allowing for more rest in your life?
Great question. And the first word that's coming to me is I've learned my rhythms. So what I mean by that is like, we've talked about this before, but, I know in the morning time that time is like this really, I call it like the thin place time. I know that I am going to be like totally in tuned with my subconscious and maybe even getting some guidance about the day, maybe even kind of get more of that intuitive information. So it becomes like non-negotiable time for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I know I work really well and I can be productive right after that. And so I don't try to force myself unless there's like a deadline or something like that, I won't force myself to try to produce when my brain feels goofy or if I feel tired or if I feel like distracted. I'll just go do something else so that I can get myself back into productive mode. Because if I'm pushing, it just backfires on me all the time. My work gets sloppy.
Yep.
I start kind of avoiding people. I start procrastinating. And then all of a sudden I've got people pissed off at me. I'm showing up half-ass. You know what I'm saying? I finally got into this place where I like, if I'll do what I'm supposed to do as far as like the mind, body, spirit part for me, to me, that's what rest and play is. I'm taking walks. I'm having, lunch with my girlfriends, or I'm, meditating, whatever it is for me, so that I feel fed.
Yeah.
And I feel like my cup is full. And then I'm able to give myself that space and time to just hit it really hard. And then when I get my stride, oh my gosh, the productivity levels and the creativity and the shit that I can produce is like, it's the flow state.
Yeah, totally.
That's a whole podcast in itself, is that flow state.
I was just about to say, it's like being moving out of that forcing
Yes.
and moving into flow.
Yes.
Yeah. And that only is a result from rest.
Yes.
Like you can't get into flow when you're in that manic, just like state.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. Like you're desperate, you're forcing, everything is clenched and tight. And flow is like,
oh, it's magic. If y'all haven't read that book, go buy that book called Flow.
Yeah. Such a good book.
Who wrote that? Google it. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll listen in the show notes. Yeah. I'm going to Google everything on this episode. Side note, we've got some little dirty mouths today.
I'm a cusser today.
Me too.
You know what? Why are we cussing?
I don't know. I just realized I was like, I'm going to have to put explicit on this episode.
Put the warning sign. Sorry, everybody. Hope that no one's offended.
Well, I'm glad that I did start this episode by saying this is like what it would be like sitting at a cocktail with us. Because this is, I think that's what's happening. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been so great to just kind of think through all the ins and outs of what it looks like to kind of be in that cycle of addiction and ultimately come out of a place into more serenity. I think we can maybe even just take out the word balance and change it with serenity. Is there anything else, just kind of as we wrap up here, when you think about the 12 steps as it relates to this idea of burnout and hustle and, workaholism that is relevant? Any of the other steps that feel...
Yeah, I mean, if anything, probably not any of the other steps. I think the first one is so great. It's like, I can't, God can, and here's how. Like that's, if you boil down the 12 steps, that's essentially what it's all about.
So good.
And then how it can help others, and really you just have to have some awareness. Everything that you teach, everything that you introduce people to, at the end of the day, it's all about having more intention and more awareness about their life. And you don't even know what you don't know unless life starts speaking so loudly to you that it's not working.
Yeah.
Then you just finally have to say, that's it. I surrender.
Yeah.
I finally admit this is not working the way that I wanted it to. My life is not functioning the way I want it to. And I'm just going to, so we could say a higher power is God, but truly it's just admitting that there's a better way.
Totally. And that we're not alone. I mean, I think that's the gift of higher power, is that when you think about so many of our reasons why we're hustling, it's because there's a deep-seated belief that we're alone and we've got to do it all ourselves.
Totally.
So I think that's the gift of higher power, and be like, I don't have to do all this. Like, I can actually rest because there's space for me to rest. Like, it's not just me. And I can surrender ultimately. And that's, it's like, you got to have something to surrender to.
Exactly.
And that's obviously for each person listening, you filter that in your religious context or non-religious context for that higher power. And that's what I love about the 12 steps too. You might know this actually. If somebody feels like they're like a total workaholic, what meeting would they go to? Because it wouldn't be like alcohol, Al-Anon.
I mean, they actually might have workaholic anonymous groups, but there's all sorts of different business related support groups. There's Debtor Anonymous. There's business, small business Anonymous. Like there's all different types. So, you can totally Google, just put workaholism and 12 steps and see what comes up.
Yeah, just be curious, because I think that is just so powerful and so helpful.
And you're right. You could go to any of them and probably get the same, because, as we were talking, we were like, man, this could be, Overeaters Anonymous. This could be debt. This could be, alcohol, drugs, sex.
Codependency.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, Coda. Love that one.
Yeah. And we all, and they all they're all asking of us to pause and reflect and look within and literally create better boundaries around self-care and self-love, which is what rest is.
Yes. Preach it, sister. This is so good. Thank you for having this conversation today.
I love it. We didn't even know where it was going to go.
Literally, y'all, we just sat down. This is it.
It's play.
It's play.
What did we need today? We needed rest or play. We needed both.
Now let's go rest. Guys, I'm so excited for the rest of this month because we've got some amazing episodes coming. Next week, we've got Melody Miles. Y'all, you're going to be blown the freaking away. Blow the frick away.
Whatever. You almost cussed.
I know, I almost did. You're going to be blown away, okay, by the episode. So definitely check that out. And if you've been excited and curious about the Living Fully Alive membership, the Circle membership, y'all, guess what? It is opening up in October. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it because I'm so excited that it has been closed since May. So if you're curious, get on the wait list right now because we're going to be announcing how you can get involved. And if you're on the wait list, you're going to get a special discount to join. So you're going to want to do that right now. MaryHyatt.com/circle. MaryHyatt.com/circle. Get on that wait list and be ready to join in this so that you can do all the things that I've been talking about, going deeper, doing that journal prompts, doing the guided meditations, all the things that will help you support implementing all of that you've been hearing on the podcast. So until then, y'all, I will see you next week. And remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, is to be great, and to be full. Talk with y'all next week. Bye. Hey y'all, thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.